It's Purple Daily on Score North and ScoreNorth.com. Purple Daily, presented by Surly Brewing Company.
And welcome in. On the eve of Vikings training camp, players reporting Judd Zulgad getting his SPF 4000 ready to slab all over his face, his forearms, his neck, ready for your
next key
60-second straight training camp.
It's not
Judd has covered every single Vikings training camp since their inception. Did you guys know that?
Since Bemidji, man. So it's not an endorsement, but I will say, at Target yesterday, the spray. Stuff. See, I sort of like the spray more.
The spray is good, yeah.
The lather up, I don't really enjoy it.
So it's fine on the. What I have found is the spray is fine on the golf course because you're kind of moving a little bit and you're ready, a little sweaty. But if you're beaching it, if you're asking the sun to be on you, you got to go with the lotion.
Does the lotion work better than the spray?
Yes.
I got you.
My fair Irish skin will just be crisp if I don't put 50 lotion on every hour.
Okay. Yeah, just be careful out there. You know what actually might help you here is people have been asking for swag for quite some time here, and damn it, we have a pop-up shop for the next 2 weeks at scorenorth.com/shop. That's SKOR North.com/shop. Maybe Dex can put this in the YouTube comment section here too in the description.
You got it.
Where we have Before I Die Purple Daily themed shirts. We've got Purple Daily hats and koozies and a purple and gold Score North t-shirt as well. We've got long sleeve if you want to cover your arms during those simmering training camp practices. You can go short sleeve if you want to bronze the forearms. All items are free shipping, and the store is open until midnight on August 2nd, and then we will ship stuff in the month of August. So check it out. Right now, I know there's some people who listen internationally to our show, and we love you guys, but right now the shop is open for the continental USA only right now. We'll do another one in the fall at some point, but check out the Before I Die shirts, the Purple Daily Trucker hats, and let us know what you think. What else would you want to add if we did something in October in the fall season? So check them out.
Love it.
This is Purple Daily, daily Vikings entertainment, where we just want the Vikings to win a Super Bowl before we die. The show is presented by our friends at Surly Brewing Company and TCL. Redefine creativity with the TCL 30V 5G smartphone. Enjoy blazing fast 5G speed, an AI-powered 50-megapixel triple camera system.
Football.
And ultra-realistic, true-to-life visuals powered by Next Vision. Learn more at TCL.com. So I have for you, and I would be curious if you guys have other ones that you want to add to this, but yesterday's show was all about Judd's 10 players that could pop up from under the radar and impress at training camp, really like the 10 Mr. Mankato candidates. Not all of the candidates, but the 10 main Mr. Mankato candidates.
Yep.
Mr. Mankato founded by the Mackey and Judd show back in the day on 1500 ESPN. So while there's much chatter around the Vikings podcast and blog sphere, just know that Mr. Mankato, the original version, comes from Mackey and Judd when we delivered a styrofoam cooler with Funyuns in it to Adam Thielen. There it is right there.
Yep.
There's a picture for the YouTube audience. There's people commenting on YouTube that, wow, I thought Mackey was about a foot taller than that. I'm kneeling here. I don't know what you guys... I'm 7 feet tall, but I didn't want to make Chip and Judd feel weird, so I'm kneeling there.
I'm going to go out on a limb and say, from the looks of that picture, a long time ago now, I was out drinking late the night before.
Can we pop that back up?
Yeah. Look
How
at me.
hungover was Judd?
Look at me. I look haggard.
Yeah,
I
baby.
was definitely, I've got that slouch, oh my God,
Well, you don't have good posture. You and I both don't have good posture.
I have terrible posture.
But
I have
eyes,
terrible.
It's in your eyes that you were definitely out drinking last night.
Yep, and my face is a little bit red, and it's not a sunburn, but yes, my posture is all-time bad, and it's made worse by the fact that I shuffle when I walk. I walk like I'm 80. I shuffle. I kick rocks because my feet shuffle so badly.
Why? Why don't you pick your feet up more?
Because I would have to concentrate on that. And I just don't do it.
It's the simplest thing.
You don't have time for that.
But I literally shuffle. People have said before, I knew it was you from across the room because it looked like an old man shuffling.
I could just hear the feet just hello.
Yep. Hello. I shuffle. That's what I do.
Amazing. So if you see someone with just SPF 6000 slathered all over their body, shuffling around Vikings training camp, that will be Judd at the Vikings practice facility. So I bring to you 5 interesting storylines, to me anyways. All right, these are not the 5 most interesting storylines. These are not 5 storylines of interest to the public or to Judd or to Declan. These are the 5 most interesting storylines to old Macadac here at Vikings training camp.
Love it.
I'll throw the 5 out, and then you guys can tell me what you would add or maybe subtract, all right?
Okay.
And I'm not even going to count down. I'm just going to give you the one that I am the most interested in right away here, all right? Mm-hmm. I am interested to see how close Danielle Hunter and Za'Darius Smith can get back to their 2019 form. We all knew that those guys had great peaks, and Danielle Hunter is still like in the middle of his prime. He's 27 years old. Za'Darius is only 29 years old, so they're it's not like either one of these guys is ancient. But get a load of this, okay? 2019 was the last time both these guys were healthy at the same time. They combined that season for 28 sacks, 32 combined tackles for losses. They were number 1 and number 2 in the NFL in total pressures generated. 181 total pressures generated by those two guys. That's 11 per game. And if you're wondering, okay, let's see, 11 per game. Quarterbacks average about 30 dropbacks per game. That means these guys were combining to get pressure on 1 in every 3 dropbacks. And that includes like screen passes and stuff, or like you can just almost take those off the board entirely. Like there's like quick passes where you have no chance to get a pressure. Right. So if you take those passes out of the game, they're probably getting pressure in 2019 like every other pass play, which is pretty incredible. So I don't know that you're going to be able to see it pop like in a shorts and shells practice, but if those guys, I just want to see them move around, I guess. I just want to see, can they get through all these practices with no tweaks or dings or weird neck injuries or, and that's what happened with Danielle a couple years ago, right? He was just, all of a sudden he had a tweak in his neck. And
he supposedly just slept wrong.
Yeah.
I just slept wrong, and then he's having major surgery. So
can we get through these practices without any weird sleeping wrong, tweaked neck situations so they can get back to their 2019 form?
Well, and I don't think, just guessing, I don't think there's going to be any real practice situation for the most part where it's going to be going fast enough to tweak like your neck or something. I'm not saying a guy won't sprain an ankle or something. But here's the other thing, Phil, off your storyline that I think is going to be so interesting to watch. From the stats that you just cited, now Za'Darius Smith was playing in a 3-4 defense, if I'm not mistaken, in Green Bay. Mm-hmm. But of course, for the most part, Danielle had his hand in the dirt at the left end. And so now he's going to be freed up to stand up and form basically what should be a potential complete hell for opposing lines and quarterbacks from the outside coming in. So like just from an athletic standpoint, I guess my question is this: if Danielle Hunter is at full strength, if he's absolutely fine, how much havoc can he cause in this role too? Because it's not coming with your hand in the dirt, which, look, he was great at. But that's sort of my point. If you're combining him with Smith and they are coming from the edge, it's been made very clear, without trying to hide this too, that they're going to move around. So it's not like going to be predictable. Like they fully plan to get these guys at times matched up on interior offensive linemen, guards, centers. So, yeah, I'm with you. I think that this could be, if they can maintain their health, this could be another step, especially for Danielle, that is going to be incredible to watch.
Yes. I mean, those guys being healthy is going to be the single biggest reason for a defensive turnaround. I keep saying it. There's going to be so much made about the scheme, and, they went from this scheme to that scheme. It's like, and that the scheme might help. I'm sure the scheme will help. But just having those guys back, those guys, again, combined for 181 pressures in 2019. That's crazy. So can they just be 75, 80% of what they were then? And then, let some of the other guys do their jobs? So just watching Hunter and Za'Darius is the number one thing that I'm the most interested in going into Vikings training camp, right? Number 2, I think the second storyline that I'm most interested in is just the tension-free football team that this is compared to 1 year ago. 1 year ago, we had coaches on the hot seat. We had weird tension between head coach and quarterback. We had weird COVID vaccination tension, and some guys were like the Vikings had the lowest vax rate on the team, and the head coach is going up to the podium and publicly ripping players and saying that some of these guys think, I don't know what some of these guys are reading, and like it felt weird. And I think Judd has become a master over the years at just sniffing out, this smells funny in the offseason. Oh, Percy Harvin is on day 15, and like it's like his 7th grandma that's died. Why is he not with the team?
He had so many grandmas.
What's happening? And last year you kind of called it like, okay, this is weird. They're all kind of fight. There's like COVID angst, and the coach and the quarterback are at each other, and Cousins is referencing a plexiglass cubicle, and it just felt weird. And this year it almost feels weird the other way, where it's very kumbaya, and guys are loving it. Guys are loving hanging out with each other, and Eric Kendricks has a YouTube channel, and he's posting all these team chemistry paintball videos and all this. Like, it's kind of a post Mike Zimmer honeymoon period. We might even have coaches making eye contact with players, Brian O'Neill, and asking how their day was in the hallway.
I recommend that. That's a bad idea. he might stop and talk then.
Yeah, you don't want that. You don't want social interaction.
No. Absolutely
it
not.
Really
this
ruin
is
a football team.
Damn it. This is a intriguing one because I think we discussed this about a month back or so. So I brought this up at the spring camps, and I was told by people inside, it's a big improvement, but we haven't lost a game yet. And so their point was, if you start to lose that kumbaya feel can go away pretty quickly. But this is also why we talk about shelf lives, right? Like, it's not like a coach has to become terrible. But I think that there's a certain point where the majority of people, especially coaches, their message starts to sort of wane, right? Or players are like, I played for this guy for 6 years or something. And so when we talk about the whole shelf life thing, this is exactly what I mean. And, Mike for a long time was a pretty good coach. Like, we can go and bash him now, but he was a pretty good coach for a long time. And then it started to get toxic and things started to go well. And people, I think, in the building got tired of Mike, and Rick too, to be fair. So yes, I think your point is very valid in the fact that we now have a reset and a different atmosphere and a different tempo, and quite frankly, an offensive guy who's young and excited. So if they lose games, it might change things, but I don't think you're going to sense a toxic atmosphere unless it's brought on by the coach. And Kevin O'Connell does not seem like a guy who anytime soon is going to bring on something like Childress did in 2006 that would be considered a toxic atmosphere.
Yeah, I'm just trying to think of like the things that bring about a toxic atmosphere in a football locker room. Number one, coach becomes unlikable, and actually, number one is losing, right? Yep. You lose games, and then fingers start to get pointed, and everyone starts to feel the pressure, or not even losing, just not winning up to expectations. Because it's not like the Vikings have lost games at the rate of the Jets or the Lions or some of these other teams over the years. I mean, they're still in the playoff hunt with 2 or 3 weeks to go. Yes. But they're not meeting so number one is just not meeting expectations and the angst that goes with that. Number two would be head coach, just the message wears thin, and some of that plays into losing. I think number three is kind of what like the Cardinals went through this offseason until that weird contract with the you must watch film clause was signed for Kyler Murray, but like a quarterback that is in a dispute with the organization.
That's a bad sign right away. Yeah. That's a toxic sign. That's a toxic sign that got leaked is a very toxic thing.
Yes. So we'll give you $40 million a year, but we don't think you work hard. So you need 4 hours a week of uninterrupted study time on your tablet.
Is like,
how are they going to police that?
Yeah, is Kathy Bates going to come in like in The Blind Side? Like, is he hiring a tutor? Who is the person that's like logging this? Is the biggest question I have with the whole Kyler Murray thing. It's weird. It's bizarre.
Or maybe she'll come in like in Misery.
I knew you were going there. I knew you were going to go there.
Hey kids,
R.I.P. James.
Go Google the ankle hobbling scene from Misery. Yeah. That's what's going to happen to Kyler Murray. Hey, I think you were only logged in for 2.5 hours this week. Yeah. Lay down, Sonny.
You won't be running this week at all, Kyler.
You're going to be standing in the pocket.
Dropping back.
So, yeah, but like none of those things. Kirk is happy with his contract, and Danielle is happy with his contract, at least for one more year, and everyone's happy with Kevin O'Connell because they haven't lost a game yet. And so, yeah, just the tension-free zone that is Vikings football right now. All right, number 3, it's kind of a continuation of number 2. I'm curious to see how good is Kevin O'Connell. And again, we won't actually see this play out for several games or maybe even a year or two, but we will start to see it manifest at camp. How is he working with players? The one thing you could see right away with Mike Zimmer in 2014, he knew exactly who he was as a defensive coach. He knew exactly which players to spend a lot of time with. Yep. He wasn't just out there kind of in over his head. There were times where Brad Childress early on, you could tell the guy had really no idea who he was as an NFL head coach. Mike Zimmer, faults and all, knew exactly what he wanted to do the minute he stepped foot on training camp grounds in 2014. So how good is Kevin O'Connell? How commanding is he? And ultimately, like my big picture question for him is he going to be the second or third coming, these young gurus in that Shanahan offense that goes back, Kyle Shanahan, Sean McVay, is he going to be an extension of those guys? Where like we've seen the peak of that offense under those guys. The San Francisco 49ers in 2019 had the number 2 scoring offense in the league with Jimmy Garoppolo. And Sean McVay, and that was Shanahan's 3rd year in San Francisco. Sean McVay in year 1 in 2017 with young Jared Goff had the number 1 scoring offense in the NFL. So is he going to be next in line and just immediately this thing's going to go from 14th highest scoring offense to 3rd or 2nd? Or is he going to be the highly touted, the Matt Nagy type, right? The highly touted coordinator under a well-respected offensive mind. And a year and a half later, you're like, ugh. I don't know what the deal is with this guy.
I think the thing that dovetails between your second and third one is when Kevin O'Connell joined us and talked about that 35-day streak where that Rams team last year, who won the Super Bowl, didn't win a single game between November. I think the entire month of November, they didn't win a single game, like 35-plus days from the end of October into early December when they actually won a game. So adversity is obviously going to hit this team at some point, whether it's losing, whether it's injuries, whether it's ineffectiveness, self-doubt, all those things we've talked about so far. And how does he adapt to that? Because when you're the OC of the Rams, like he's obviously part of the big picture there, and he's trying to get that team back on track. They're at the drawing board trying to figure out what went wrong during this 4 to 5 game losing streak. But now you're the man now, Kevin. Like you're the guy who has to figure it all out. How does he handle all that stew of adversity? That's what I'm most curious about to watch this season.
And McVay owns rooms. That's the one thing that stands out. Like it jumps off the screen. Yeah. That guy walks into a room and he owns it. And I don't think I don't think that you can say, I own this room, listen to me. But like the McVays, the Tomlins, like people have this and it's an intangible. And I don't know exactly what the secret sauce is, but it exists. And I think the question with O'Connell is, to Phil's point, who's he going to be? Because one, you have to be yourself. Like you can't change. This year I'm Tony Dungy. Let's all get along. And next year I'm Belichick. And the other thing too is, and I think that this is going to be true of O'Connell, and I think it's going to be true of more and more young coaches, because you can't just say I'm McVay, I'm Tomlin. And it's this attribute, the attribute to know not only who you are, but what you need from your team and the players to pick up the slack potentially. Like that's where a quarterback can be absolutely huge. Because if the quarterback respects you, and like, let's say that you can certainly lead, but you're not a commanding presence, but the quarterback is, think about how much that helps a coach. And so I am curious, because I don't think for one second that O'Connell is McVay. I think he's very smart, but I think he's smart enough, and this is the most important thing right now, he's smart enough to know he's not McVay. So I don't think he's going to try and copy that as far as presence goes. Mm-hmm. But that's a very nuanced thing, right? Like that's an incredibly to know that you can do this, and this, but aren't great at this, that, and this is it's an interesting dance, I think, as a coach to try and do.
I also like that he's kind of pulling throughout his career as a player and a coach. I mean, he's spent a lot of time with Tom Brady in 2008 and spent a lot of time with Bill Belichick. And there's a lot of other guys that both coaches and players. He just has a large sampling of some of the more interesting and smart football and offensive minds dating back to 2008. So, yeah, what does he look and feel like as a coach? And is he going to go more down the path of these young superstars or the ones that flamed out after a couple of years and then were disgraced and got fired? Okay, number 4 on my list here of things that I am the most interested in heading into training camp. Is the offensive line actually fixed? To what degree is it actually fixed? And there's going to be one main position battle here, but there's also a sneaky one, too, that we haven't talked a whole lot about yet, but right guard is up for grabs. So you got a couple of veterans in there, Jesse Davis and Chris Reed, and then any number of young players, but I think Ed Ingram's probably going to get, if a young guy gets any looks, it'll probably be Ed Ingram. Center is the one that we're just kind of like, I guess Garrett Bradbury is going to be the starting center again, and they're going to try and turn him into Brian Allen, who was the guy who the light bulb went on in year 4 for him with the Rams, 4th-round draft pick, similar size to Garrett Bradbury. But if Bradbury struggles in camp and Chris Reed looks really good and they feel good about the other players at right guard, I mean, is there any chance that Garrett Bradbury could just be bumped out as the starting center early? That's one of the questions I have. Will they split any time, or will they go in saying, no, we're gonna empower this guy, despite the fact that we just declined his 5th-year option? Kind of a weird dance to have. Are they going to go in, empower him, say you're the guy, and then make a decision in October if they need to, or is it gonna turn into a battle in camp?
I think right now, if you had me guess, I would take door 2. Because
a battle in camp.
No. That they're going to go in and not have a competition, and because in the spring workouts they were very careful because they're trying to install like so much right now that they basically had, aside from switching out the right guard once in a while, they had that offensive line together the whole time. So here's the question off your point that I think is a bigger question with how they're approaching things, because you know what? I don't think anyone who's watched the last few years of Bradbury totally trusts him, and I don't think that they should. My question is this. What workaround do you have schematically if you're going to give him the job to make sure it's okay? Like, is there something we don't see? I'm sure it's not going to be discussed publicly, but like, is there a workaround? Is there a shortcut? Is there something that you
How about
saw
Kirk lining
on
up
film?
under the right guard?
Hey, that might help a little bit. But is there something that they have seen that they think can be fixed? That's my question.
Well, schematically, you can either move the pocket, you can run more play action, or you can just get rid of the ball quick with quicker developing routes.
But is that it? Like, is that it? Is there a plan to chip block more? I don't know. I don't sense. I think that they're going to be so focused on trying to get this first team prepared for the season.
That was for chip block. Yeah,
chip blocks.
chip block.
Chip blocks are important. You got to chip. If you don't chip, you're crazy. But I think that there's going to be such a focus primarily on mental reps and preparing this team for the opener that I don't know that we're going to see a battle there. Now, if he completely falls apart, it changes it. But again, I don't know these guys are going to push each other hard enough in training camp to actually see that a guy is terrible. And I wouldn't be surprised if a lot of these guys, as we've discussed before as well, don't play in the exhibition games. So like, there's going to be very little time to say that guy still sucks.
Yeah, how far are they going to take that? Would they take basically the 22 projected starters and just say, Like Lewis Cine. Is Lewis Cine going to not play a preseason game?
I bet. Oh, that's a good question. I think the Rams, though, sat the majority, if not all of their starters, including Stafford, who was new to the offense.
Yeah, teams seem to think, and the Rams are the perfect example of this, that anything you would gain by, all right, we're going to go out there and we're going to run our offense against a different team, right? And we're gonna get some hits under our belt. That any gain that there might be perceived by fans and media, that the risk is way too much for whatever that gain is. That you can still just go out there in week 1 and figure it out.
And the paranoia has only grown. It's worse now. So if you are going to have, Kirk play and Jefferson play, Thielen, Cook, you're going to do nothing with them. So like, they're literally going to go out there and run vanilla plays. And I think the Vikings' point is, what's the point of that? I think that there's a very good chance in training camp practices that are open to the public. So not the walkthroughs and stuff, but I think the actual practices, they won't do much there. Like they will go over set certain things, but they're not going to show you a lot. They don't want us.
So when are they
going
to
write it?
But they have to. It's a new system. So in the classroom, they're going to talk. They're going to talk about the things that they might do, but we're not going to show it to fans.
And they'll walk through it.
And do the walkthroughs? Some of the walkthroughs happen at noon on some of these days. Are fans allowed in for the walkthroughs or just for the practices in the afternoon?
I think it might be just for the practices.
Okay, and then the media is not supposed to report directly on X's and O's and things you see, right?
Correct.
So don't go breaking the rules.
Well, and they do
don't go. We should have some code words for you.
Don't go breaking the rules. Yep. Like what?
I don't know. We should come up with our own language for how you can tell us what's happening, and it'll be like your own code word language, and you can tell us that, hey, this is Justin Jefferson was in the slot on this play, and Dalvin was split out wide. Then we need a word for that. Bacon. If that happens, just tweet bacon.
Bacon. The emoji too, just the emoji of bacon.
So just tweet,
anytime you see Dalvin Cook out wide,
take it and incorporate it. Oh my God! You know what the Vikings are doing at training camp? Dalvin Cook's been split out. Justin Jefferson's in the backfield.
If they run a fake punt on a direct snap, it's called Apple. Okay, just send an Apple emoji out.
If they show us a fake punt, I'll give you each $20.
If they run a flea flicker, it's the zucchini.
I love a fake punt.
It's the zucchini for sure. I get very excited about
the zucchini
or the eggplant. I'm sorry, the eggplant is what I meant to say.
Now we're taking things too far.
You're really excited about the eggplant.
Where do we draw the line?
Yeah,
bacon. Yeah. Okay, and then the fifth thing on my list here, the 5 things that I am personally most excited as we go about going into training camp, just to see is, to what extent did they completely whiff on the 2021 draft? Now that Cam Bynum I think is a hit, and there's some guys in there.
Sure.
Christian Darrisaw looks like a hit in round 1, so but these 3rd round picks in particular, Kellen Mond. So he's kind of my headline. I really want to see what Kellen Mond looks like.
Yeah.
Chaz Surratt, Wyatt Davis, Patrick Jones. These are not 6th round draft picks, 7th round undrafted free agents. These are 3rd round picks. And they're basically in witness protection here. So starting with Kellen Mond, what do these guys look like? And Christian Darrisaw, I think we know where he's headed. He's just, at the very least, going to be a solid left tackle with the upside of being a Pro Bowler.
Right.
So to what extent did they whiff on the 2021 draft, the 3rd round in particular? Let's start seeing some things out there, boys.
So I think Davis either is practice squad or just completely cut and gone. Because I don't see how is he going to compete?
Someone's going to pluck him, don't you think? Because he was so highly touted that some team will. We had him as a 2nd round grade.
Probably. Jones intrigues me. I think he might be good, as we talked about in the guys who potentially will be under the radar going into camp. But yeah, I think that there's a few guys that probably have no chance. Because you got to compete for the job, and if these guys brought in players, they're not going to, unless they think a guy is really good from that draft class, I don't think they're going to encourage more competition from a guy who they consider to not be a great prospect.
Yeah.
So it's going to be interesting to see. You're right.
Yeah. And we're going to, if everyone's right about them not playing starters in these preseason games, then we're probably going to see full halves of Kellen Mond. They're going to they did bring in a tight end to fill their roster. So right now, excuse me, they only have 3 quarterbacks.
No camp arm. Which is
Isn't that kind of weird? Don't we usually have the 4th camp arm? They might cut someone at some point here, right?
All right, here's a crazy thought about the 4th arm. They have, no, it's not going to be exciting, but it's just a thought. They have now, the coach is going to be obviously affixed to the quarterbacks quite a bit. They have an OC, they have a quarterbacks coach, and they have an assistant QB's coach. I wonder if they're going to have a Slappy just throw some passes too. Because you're not going
to sling it around. Okay.
Because you're not going to work Cousins' arm. That would make 0 sense, right?
Make him earn that paycheck. Go throw another 50 passes to the 3rd team.
That's why you bring in that 4th guy, right? So just as a camp arm, and then so if you've got Mannion throwing a ton of passes, I would want to think that you want to get a real look at Mond. I don't think you're going to jack around with Mond. I think you're going to try and get a long, hard look there. I'm going with assistant quarterbacks coach is going to be throwing passes.
Write that down. I don't know how we can quantify that.
I'm not doing that because I'm not tracking it. If it doesn't happen, I don't care.
Well, you're the only one out. You're the eyes and ears for Purple Daily and Scorn. So those are the 5 main things, the 5 storylines that are most interesting to me.
I like it.
And those 5 storylines were presented in part by the Summer of Surly, which it feels like it's just ramping up as training camp is really the heart of summer, and then eventually the state fair. So
exactly right.
A fun stretch here.
So starting on Wednesday, I'm going to spend some long, hard days at camp. And you know what? When those days are done, Judd's going to be thirsty. And that's why Judd is going to come home to a fridge stocked with Surly. In the Summer of Surly, I'm going to tell you right now, the choices are endless. We've got the Logic Bomb. Of course, my personal favorite, the Furious. We've got, as Declan found out over the weekend, we've got more Supremes than we know what to do with. And all of them will be in my fridge because the Summer of Surly is going to keep me cool. And the Summer of Surly is going to agree with my taste buds after a day of football practice. It's time to turn my attention to a Pro Bowl beer, Surly.
We should send Judd out there with a cooler. Just sunglasses, some sunscreen,
some
I don't
koozies.
have my
hat,
pass
and a
revoked.
cooler.
I don't need to have my pass revoked. Okay.
No, you do not. Sounds like a bad idea.
That's bad when that happens.
Also, guys, you don't have to be embarrassed about this. Okay, guys, some guys suffer from ED. It happens. Valley Park Medical Clinic is dedicated to providing breakthrough ED remedies to men in the greater Minneapolis area. The approach is medical, and the treatments are surgery-free and drug-free and also non-invasive. The Valley Park Medical Clinic team is highly trained. They'll work with you in a discreet, professional manner so you can feel right at home asking any question you want in a very safe and confidential environment. ValleyParkMedicalClinic.com to find out more. Also, thanks to our friends at Federated Mutual Insurance Company for also helping us power Purple Daily on a daily basis. They've been helping businesses for over 100 years based in Owatonna, Minnesota. They're one of us, and a lot of big sports fans there with stories about heartbreak and devastation. So you can feel right at home when you work with Federated Insurance. Find out more about how they can help your business maximize its potential through risk management tools and resources at federatedinsurance.com, where it's our business to protect yours. What are people saying about the Minnesota Vikings? Wouldn't you like to know? So I found this on Vikings.com, actually. State-run media here. Vikings.com. Okay. And Craig Peters, I've never met Craig Peters, but he did a great deep dive into first-year head coaches dating back to 2017. So somebody asked him, hey, Kevin O'Connell, how confident should we be? And so he took the question and dove into every new head coach the last 5 years, how they all fared in their first season, and he might have done like a multi-year dive here. I'm just going to read some of this to you guys, get your thoughts. So the coaches that he charted combined for 215 total victories, which is an average of just under 7 wins in their first season.
Okay.
Zach Taylor, Matt LaFleur, and Brennan Staley are considered members of the McVay tree, along with Kevin O'Connell. They combined for an average of 8 wins. So the total average is 7, but it's brought up by Taylor, LaFleur, and Staley to an average of 8 wins in their first year. Now, I'll stop there for just a second because some of these guys, namely Zach Taylor, took over barren cupboards.
Yeah.
I mean, the Bengals were just a disaster, and they were bad for a couple years, and then Joe Burrow blossomed. So, but I also don't think that KOC is taking over the same roster that LaFleur took. Like LaFleur took over, Rodgers still in his prime, and a loaded defense, and just boom goes 13-3 right out of the gate. So the Vikings roster probably falls somewhere between what LaFleur inherited and what Taylor inherited. So that's worth noting. Of the 31 first-year hires since 2017, wow, 17 are still with their team. So about 55% are still with their team 5 years later. 8 of the 17 still with their teams had previously been an offensive coordinator and or head coach in the NFL. 2 had been an offensive coordinator and head coach in college, and 3 others had been an NFL offensive assistant. And then the 5 who posted double-digit wins in their first full season, so the 5 that did the best, all had prior experience as an NFL offensive coordinator. Now, the league is hiring more offensive coordinator types to be head coaches, so the numbers are a little bit skewed. But it is worth noting that the 5 best seasons of first-year coaches all came from offensive coordinators. So what do you make of all this?
I make of this a very simple thing, and it comes down to, I think primarily the most important thing, the relationship between the quarterback and coach. Taylor didn't have one, so he was screwed. To your point, they were awful. He was screwed. LaFleur got a great one. After that, I feel like some guys stepped into certainly situations that weren't nearly as dire. And look, I think O'Connell is stepping into a situation here in which I think that he's not getting what LaFleur did, but it's a hell of a lot closer to what LaFleur got than Taylor got. And so I think the single most important thing, and what I am so excited to find out, is can Kirk thrive here? Can Kirk be? I firmly believe that Kirk is going to be put in a position to succeed. And the question now is, can he thrive? And for those who say, well, he was screwed with Zimmer, I mean, come on, he'll thrive. I will remind you that in Washington, it was certainly not a dumpster fire offensively. There were some good people there, and he still statistically and more importantly, record-wise, was very much who he's been. So, like, this would be the first time that Kirk takes off. But I think O'Connell, I think the biggest thing, and I'm not saying that this could ultimately cost him his job. I don't think it would. But I think the most important thing is going to be, what can Kevin O'Connell get from Kirk Cousins that even Kevin O'Connell back in the first stint together in Washington didn't necessarily get?
Yeah, that's the interesting thing here is, like, we've kind of come full circle on Kirk Cousins' career in a lot of ways, where it's now he's got the system, and now he's got a guy like Kevin O'Connell, and now he's got the same system and guy that he had in Washington. But it is, in fairness, Kirk is a more experienced and better quarterback now than he was. I think for sure compared to Washington and compared to maybe 2018-19. That's the thing. Like, it is fair to say that he's gotten better in some areas. He took a lot of self-owned pressures a couple of years ago, according to Pro Football Focus, like 7th most in the league, where it was his fault that the pressure arrived because he wasn't throwing the ball early enough or whatever. He cut that way down last year. See, is that the Vinster?
Vinny has hot
Vinny.
Kirk Cousins sticks.
He does not
the
like
pressure.
Cousins.
The
It's
pressure
right.
is
Hater.
facing Vincent right now.
Vinny, hater.
Amazing. Vinny's welcome to jump on and make his appearance here on the show.
Yeah, he'll give some takes here. There's some right guard. I think that Kirk. I think you found it right there. The bark in that dog. You're not gonna.
I don't know if that was Maya or
throw in the next.
The Vinster.
Maya has a very loud bark for the 18 pounds that she is.
Same with Vinny.
Packs a
pounds,
punch, man.
But that guy's got a howitzer of a bark.
It's got a motor on him. But yeah, like I'm excited to see this thing. I'm just kind of sick of the Zimmer Cousins stuff. Like, I know that Lieber had the interview last week and it made the national rounds and stuff, but that's one thing I would like to pledge here. I'm probably going to fail, but I'll just speak for myself. I just want to look forward with Cousins and Kevin O'Connell. I personally want a clean slate here going forward. I want to see what these guys look like now that camp is here. And I just like the things that have happened. I think a lot of them probably aren't properly placed on Kirk Cousins enough the last 4 years. Our audience knows that. Vinny knows that. But new chapter, new relationship, new offense. Let's see what happens. That's kind of where I'm at with this whole thing.
Well, just like how Vinny's looking right in the screen here, I brought up this point to Judd today. If everything goes right with Kevin O'Connell and all the offense and things are clicking, but the Vikings are still that 8-9, 9-8, type of team, well, then you have to look in the mirror. It's all on 8. Like, it's all on Kirk Cousins at that point. If everything else clicks to where it's supposed to be, if Kevin O'Connell's the guru, falls back to the quarterback. He's got to own up to those issues.
Yeah, and I think O'Connell, is, in this case, all in. Like, I think he thinks that Kirk can work. It's interesting, though, and we did a deeper dive on this on the Friday show. But the one thing I can't get totally past now is Kwesi's comments about the quarterback position.
The USA Today article?
Yes, because that was the first time that he has sort of peeled things back, I feel, and given an honest assessment. And it wasn't exactly like, oh yeah, no, our guy's great, our guy's fantastic.
No,
it was an honest assessment of just how difficult it is to find a player at that spot, and that you're not going to downgrade on purpose. So like, that was the one thing that made me, for the first time, think, as I told Dex on the show today, it made me at least think about this. I think there's a very good chance that the Wilfs said, we're going to ride with Kirk. He's going to get a contract. He's certainly not bad. And so they're also going to ride with a coach, not Jim Harbaugh, but a coach that knows Kirk and likes Kirk, right? But it's an interesting dynamic that basically, as we get close to training camp, that USA Today piece surfaced with some very interesting comments from a very important person, basically expressing some doubt that I think we all are going to have until it is proven by Kirk that this is going to work completely, or we get back to it might not, or it's probably not going to work.
He basically said, and yes, we did do a dive into this last week, so if you want the whole conversation, just check it out. But he basically said, we don't have Tom Brady or Patrick Mahomes, and I think those are the two quarterbacks he said. Like, he named those quarterbacks. We don't have that dude. When you have that dude, your odds to win a Super Bowl go up.
Yep.
He also said, we do feel really confident in our decision-making process with the people we have here, that we can sort of win the draft lottery more often than, because the draft is kind of a crapshoot. Even the smartest people are going to whiff on a high percentage, but we feel like we can hit at a higher percentage. But it's also really hard to find that dude at quarterback. So we're just going to kind of settle for this guy at quarterback who we know what we're getting, and we're going to hope to maximize him. So it was like, on one hand, he's like, yeah, we don't think he's one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL.
It wasn't all in.
But he's good enough to where it's everything that we've talked about, right? But he's tantalizing enough, and he's safe enough to where we don't have to start over and go back to the drawing board, especially when the ownership is pressuring you to be competitive on a yearly basis. And so we'll see. We'll see if they can take him to a level that he hasn't been. I think a lot of the Cousins Crusaders out there would say he's always been at that level. It's up to everything else to rise up around. And yes, there are things around him that need to rise up, but all of it needs to rise up. And it starts this week with Judd Zulgad in the mix.
Judd.
A skinny Judd Zulgad. How many people are going to be out there that maybe haven't seen you since I mean, is there anyone you're going to see at camp that you haven't seen since the end of the season? Or have you probably seen most of these people at like OTAs and mini camps?
I've seen them all.
Boy, that guy lost a lot of weight. Some of the fans might see you for the first time, though.
That's exactly right. And if they saw me at this time last year, they probably said, Judd, you're looking pretty big. But now you see that guy that was just put up from a weekend ago at a wedding. And that weight loss is thanks to my friends at Livia Weight Control Centers. I want you to join me now. In fact, Dawn and I are down to combine 50 plus pounds. So it's a teamwork thing. And the simple start plan, only $59. Personalized and guided support online or in person, whichever is most convenient for you. It's as simple as this. 855-GO-LIVEA, Livia.com, Livea.com. If you want to look good, if you want your clothes to fit, if you want the easiest method I've ever had to take off the pounds, Livia.com.
Shout out to our friends at Dennis Kirk as well. They've been a partner of ours from the very start at Score North. And if you're a motorcycle guy or gal, they've got what you need: accessories, apparel, parts. And we'd love for you to give them a look for whatever your needs are. DennisKirk.com, free shipping on orders over $89. And same-day shipping on orders placed before 8 p.m. Ride more, wait less at DennisKirk.com. All right, and don't forget, scorenorth.com/shop. We've got our pop-up shop for the next couple weeks. It's going to be open for a week and change until midnight on August 2nd. So we've got the Before I Die shirts. We got Purple Daily trucker hats. We got koozies. Got a Score North purple and gold theme shirt. And we'll maybe cook up some other stuff for a fall pop-up shop. But we're sending Judd off to training camp here.
Yep.
Daily episodes are going to continue next week.
But all grown up.
We got Realistic Randy and Dex firing up next Monday, August 1st. Also, Before We Die, the podcast with Jesse and Thor starting up next week. So you're going to see a lot of stuff on the Purple Daily podcast feed, in addition to all the regular daily flagship episodes and the YouTube channel. If you could click subscribe on the Purple Daily YouTube channel, you can help spread the word about this community of Vikings fans, and we'll give you that daily Vikings content every single day. See you guys tomorrow.